بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. الدرس الرابع والعشرون. The final few chapters are quite easy that the Sheikh mentions. They are more general points, and inshallah I think by this level you guys are used to reading a lot more now, inshallah. So the Sheikh, the first paragraph talks about how Ramadan, has been specified to do more good deeds, especially the last 10. And especially ولا أعمال بالخواتيم. That's taken from a hadith. So over here ولا أعمال بالخواتيم وإنما الأعمال بخواتيمها. The actions are by the endings. And then Shaykh talks about how Ramadan is a month in which Allah frees people from the hellfire. And the Prophet ﷺ, the Shaykh mentions two hadiths. They're both in Muslim. The first is كان الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا دخل العشر أحيا الليل وأيقظ أهله وشد المئزر. Now, the Sheikh, which basically refers to the Prophet, if the last 10 entered, then he would stay awake the whole night, and he would wake up his family, and he would work hard, and he wouldn't have a relationship with his family, basically. And the other hadith, both narrated by Aisha, كان الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم يجتهد في العشر الأواخر ما لا يجتهد في غيرها. The Prophet would exert more effort in the last 10. But he wouldn't do it wouldn't do it other than it. Meaning, person would do extra in the last 10. So generally, if a person, he decreases after Ramadan a bit, then it's not something bad. A person would do more in the last 10. Okay. Obviously, we're going to talk about after Ramadan, obviously without missing out anything which is obligatory and so on, and doing things to haram. But now, and what it means that the person spends the whole night is it includes so many things. الشامل للاجتهاد في القراءة والصلاة والذكر والصدقة وغير ذلك. And then the Shaykh carries on, and he just talks about some other things that a person should do in this night. So he talks about qiyam and making it long, and not, some people who nowadays just spend their time going for milkshakes or sitting down and talking and so on. The Shaykh actually says, وهذا من سوء التربية. وهذا من سوء here. وهذا من سوء التربية. This is actually bad nurturing. And in fact, many people like that. And then he also talks about how some people try to use a statement that Qiyam is nafil. We're only going to be asked about that, which is obligatory. Then he mentioned a statement of Aisha radiallahu anha. This should be something which is highlighted. And another good thing that a person could do in this book is that anytime you come across, obviously there's a lot of benefits, but like big benefits, quotes, and so on, gather all of them in one place. And if anybody does that and wants to share with the students and myself, then please do. But he mentioned a statement of Aisha radiallahu anha was something I don't think I've come across before, but so it's very profound to me as well, which is وَقَدْ قَالَتْ أُمُّ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ عَائِشَةُ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهَا يَمْثَالِ هَؤُلَاء. That Aisha said to people like this, that used to say that it's nafil and we're only going to be asked about that which is obligatory. She said, بَلَغَنِي عَنْ قَوْمٍ يَقُولُونَ إِنْ أَدَّيْنَا الْفَرَائِض لَمْ نُبَالِي أَنْ نَزْدَادَ. That it has reached me that people are saying that if we perform the obligatory actions, we don't care about increasing. ولا عمري. That's like a type of qasam. لا يسألهم الله إلا عما افترض عليهم. That yes, Allah will not ask them except what is obligatory upon them. ولكنهم قوم يخطئون بالليل والنهار. But they are people that make mistakes during the day and night. وما أنتم إلا من نبيكم وما نبيكم إلا منكم. And you are not except from your prophet, and your prophet is not from you except from you. والله ما ترك رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قيام الليل. And wallahi, the Prophet never, meaning you and the Prophet are the same, both humans. If anything, the Prophet is better, but the Prophet never left off qiyam al-layl. And this shows the importance of nawafil as well. Nawafil is like a fortress, as the ulama described, for your obligations. And if you just do the bare minimum, you're going to end up being deficient. And then the Shaykh talks about it could be Laylatul Qadr and so on. He just mentioned a hadith, and the Shaykh does say ruwiya, which it has been narrated, because this hadith, Allah alam, is weak. And then the Shaykh does talk about increasing in Salah and stuff in the last 10. He doesn't really talk about the issue of difference between Tarawih and Qiyam al-Layl, so I'm not going to talk about that either. But he does say that there's a mistake that some people only pray Tarawih and that's it, or they only pray Qiyam and that's it. Like it should be the whole night. You should be praying. You should be praying the whole night with the Imam if you can. As for splitting into two, then that's a separate issue. And the Shaykh does say that there's a fatwa that he will mention by Shaykh Abu Batin, which he'll talk about towards the end of the book. The next chapter is regarding i'tikaf. Now, i'tikaf again, this is normally studied at the end of the chapter of fasting. There's a lot of rulings, and there's actually a lecture by Ustad Abu Abbas Naveed. He actually did a few days ago in Nelson as well. So I was here, so I attended, and it was very good. About 1 hour, 10 minutes, but try to listen to that. It's very good. Inshallah, we will study it in when you take fiqh as well. But if you just want one lecture, then I would advise that lecture. And what the Sheikh basically mentions here is firstly the definition, and he says, واصطلاحا لزوم المسجد لطاعة الله, or in some books, طاعة لله, that you stick and you abide in the masjid to the obedience of Allah, or out of obedience for Allah. ويسمى جوارا, and it's also known as jiwar in some hadith. So that's what i'tikaf is. It's not to do anything else. It's just to obey Allah. Just to obey Allah. And it's a sunnah. قربة بالكتاب والسنة والإجماع. Okay. And then he also mentions some of the wisdoms behind i'tikaf. And he mentions this statement here. وَقَطْعٌ لِلْعَلَائِقِ عَنِ الْخَلَائِقِ لِلِاتِّصَالِ بِالْخَالِقِ. And this, subhanAllah, I think it's a statement of Ibn Rajab, very profound. So you should try to memorize it. قَطْعٌ لِلْعَلَائِقِ عَنِ الْخَلَائِقِ لِلِاتِّصَالِ بِالْخَالِقِ. That you cut off all relations from the creation so that you can connect to the creator. And that's what i'tikaf is. I'tikaf, some people that do i'tikaf, they don't really know. They think i'tikaf is a place for people to get together and speak and chill and relax. And they think that just being in the masjid is ibadah in of itself. But i'tikaf is not being the actual spirit and the ruh and the soul of i'tikaf, or the intent, the objective and the intended meaning behind i'tikaf is not being in the masjid. It's not just being in the masjid, but it's the fact that you're in the masjid and you've disconnected from everybody else so that you can focus on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that you can increase in ibadah. It's not just being in the masjid. Yeah, being in the masjid is something good, but it's not an ibadah which is intended in of itself. Like you recite Quran so you get closer to Allah and you can act upon it and so on. Or salah, salah is something you do in of itself, because in salah you get close to Allah. But just sitting in the masjid doesn't make you get close to Allah. It's actually because of you being in the masjid, you can do all of the other ibadat. That's something very important regarding i'tikaf. And then the Shaykh mentions the timing of i'tikaf. He says, وَالْإِعْتِكَافِ مَسْنُونٌ كُلُّ وَقْتٍ وَلَكِنَّهُ فِي رَمَضَانَ آكَدٌ. The i'tikaf, you can do it throughout the whole year. They want for example in Sha'ban, I can't remember, but he did it once outside of Ramadan. However, وَلَكِنَّهُ فِي رَمَضَانَ آكَدٌ. But it's more emphasized in Ramadan. It's more emphasized in Ramadan. And then the Shaykh basically mentions a number of conditions for i'tikaf. One is your intention. You have to have the intention of i'tikaf. It has to be in the masjid, and it has to be that masjid where there's 5 daily prayers prayed and jama'atan. It's not like in a masjid where no one comes at all and only one salah gets prayed and that's it. That's been basically a proper masjid that is used for all the salawat. And it's not permissible for a person to have marital relations, even if it's at night during i'tikaf and so on. That's what the Shaykh talks about. Then the Shaykh talks about the Qadr, and I read this, and to be honest, I decided I'm going to skip over it in terms of my explanation, because a lot of these points are some things, especially in these last 10 nights, you've probably heard again and again. So it's something I want you guys to read, inshallah. And this may be the only chapter you read without me doing any explanation, so see how you get on with that. The next chapter is regarding, the next two, 3 chapters is regarding what a person does towards the end of the month. And what the Shaykh basically talks about on this first page is basically how time has gone really quick, and we were just yesterday we were welcoming Ramadan and we're ready to bid it farewell. So whoever has done good, then he should increase in the goodness, and whoever has been deficient, then he should tawbah to Allah, do good deeds and increase in good actions. And the Shaykh just mentioned a statement which I want to comment on, and the statement is this: ومن كان يعبد شهر رمضان فإن شهر رمضان قد انقضى وفات ومن كان يعبد الله فإن الله حي لا يموت. This is kind of taken from the statement of Abu Bakr when a person passed away and all the Sahaba were perplexed, and to keep when he said this and he mentioned the ayah as well, it kind of calmed everyone down, which is where he said, من كان يعبد محمدا فإن محمدا قد مات ومن كان يعبد الله فإن الله حي لا يموت. Whoever used to worship Muhammad, and Muhammad has passed away, but whoever worships Allah, then Allah is حي لا يموت, all living and he will never die. I never realized that yes, we're here to worship Allah, not the person. The person was a messenger and prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who he had sent. So the Shaykh kind of used the same thing, that it's not just Ramadan. We're not worshipping Ramadan. It's just a month where Allah has placed extra virtue in. But we worship Allah 24/7. And then the Shaykh talks about how some people just worship Allah just in Ramadan, and they think that's enough. But they forget how outside of Ramadan, not praying salah is from kaba'ir and so on. So it's not really, that's not going to benefit them. really. I mentioned a statement of some of the Salaf, which again is not a profound statement. We should highlight. قد سئل بعض السلف عن قوم يجتهدون في شهر رمضان. Some of the Salaf were asked about people who only worship in the month of Ramadan or work hard in Ramadan, and then when فإذا انقضى ضيعوا وأساءوا, and once they finish they become lost and do evil. فقال بئس القوم لا يعرفون الله إلا في رمضان. How evil are these people, or how bad are these people that they don't know Allah except in Ramadan. نعم لأن من عرف الله خافه في كل زمان. Yes, because whoever knows Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala truly, then he will fear him in all times. I think the statement finishes there, but if we stop here. As for Na'am, I think that might be from Sheikh Fawzān. SubhanAllah, I would really prefer if the book had like quotation marks, so we can see exactly where they start and end. And then the Shaykh also mentions a hadith, and this hadith is actually a hadith which is in Khuzaymah. So I will translate this hadith because you might not be able to find it as easy. If it's not in Kutub, especially Kutub Sitta, it is quite hard to find a translation. So I'll say this, inshallah. And this hadith basically is, this month of yours has shaded you by the oath of Allah's messenger, or the messenger of Allah. There has not passed upon the Muslims a month that is better for them than it, nor has there passed upon the hypocrites a month that is more evil than it. By the oath of Allah's messenger, verily Allah will write its reward and nawafil, and its extra optional actions before he enters it, and he writes his sins and atrocities before he even enters it, regarding the munafiq. This is because the believer prepares therein with his time and spends in the worship of Allah. The hypocrite prepares therein for following the transgressors and following their desires, so the spoils are given to the believer. Yani the reward is given to the believers. And this is because the Shaykh is talking about munafiqun, how they are, both people are happy when Ramadan leaves. A Muslim is happy when Ramadan, but he's happy inside. He's happy that Ramadan leaves, that he's benefiting in Ramadan. But the munafiq, he's happy so that he can disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala again. Now, the next chapter, the Shaykh starts talking about Eid. And he just talks about the importance of Eid and how Muslims have two Eids. And Eid is something which repeats. And he also talks about how the Prophet ﷺ, he commanded the even the women, even those women on the menstrual cycle, to come out for Eid. So menstrual women, even the women on the period should come out, not be at the area where the salah is being prayed, maybe on the side, but they should still come out. And that's why there's a difference of opinion regarding what's the ruling of Salat al-Eid. Some ulama have said fardu ayn, some have said fardu kifaya, and some have said sunnah mu'akkada. And these are the three opinions, Allah alam, from what I remember. But I'm not going to go into the details of it. The point being is that everyone should go out. And it's from the sha'air, the symbols of Islam as well. So a person should go. But when a person goes, they should remember to, men should remember to lower the gaze, as it's mentioned by some of the Salaf. There's a statement. 1 second. Now, the statement. Some of the companions of Sufyan al-Thawri said that we left with Sufyan al-Thawri on the Eid, and Sufyan al-Thawri said that the first thing we start our day with is lowering the gaze. And this is mentioned by Ibn Jawzi in At-Tafsirah. And but likewise, women shouldn't go out doing tabarruj, showing, flaunting their beauty and so on. And everything, listen to music, please stay away from that. Yeah, everyone knows what's halal, what's haram for them, and they should stay within their boundaries. Number 29 is regarding Zakat al-Fitr. And Zakat al-Fitr, the Shaykh talks about how it's basically like a purification for a person from the deficiencies of that month, and it's also the benefit it goes out to the poor people. And then he talks about it's obligatory upon everyone, mimman talzamhu wa amman talzamhu mu'natu. It's obligatory upon everybody has to give zakat al-fitr, but the person who pays it is the person who's basically in charge. So like the father is normally whoever it's obligatory upon him to look after wife and kids, basically. most of the time, then it's obligatory upon him to pay for all of them. And it's also, if the wife is pregnant, then it's also mustahab to give on behalf of upon the baby as well. And it should be given to those people who are local. So if there are local people who are poor, it should be given to them firstly and foremost. If there's no one, then that's a different issue. And the time, the Sheikh talks about different times. And basically, you can summarize the times, and the Sheikh does summarize it. There's 4 basically times. And the Sheikh says the first time is obligatory, which is a day or 2 before Eid. Then the best time, which is between, which is from the starting time, the Maghrib of when Ramadan finishes until the start of Eid. And then there's a time which is accepted, which is straight after the start of Eid. And there's a time where it becomes qada, and you're sinful, which is the day after Eid. And Shaykh Sarhami, we made some little posters previously. I might reshare them this year, inshallah. They've got quite a few rulings of Zakat al-Fitr. So inshallah, I'll share them out. And the food that you have to give is basically a sa' of rice or dates and so on. And a sa' is basically the sheikh. It's a handful, but it's basically sorry, it's not a handful. Sorry, Allah Musta'an. A mud is a handful. A sa' is 4 handfuls. A sa' is 4 handfuls. So that's basically about 3 kilos. So I'm thinking now, did I say handful last time? A mud is a handful. We put 2 hands together, and a sa' is 4 of them. A sa' is 4 of them. And to the poor people, you have to give them. The food. Give them food. You don't give them money. It's not permissible to give them money. And then the last chapter, the Sheikh talks about, I'm not going to really read, and basically the Sheikh just talks about how a person should increase after Ramadan. And there's different types of people in Ramadan. He mentions 4 types of people, which you can read, inshallah. Let's see if you guys are able to summarize the number yourselves. There are 4 types of people that the Sheikh mentions, and I'll tell you where it starts. It starts from here, Ibadullah, and it kind of finishes where he says Ibadullah again. Around about here, it finishes about here. Now, but then the Shaykh basically talks about how important it is to carry on with the obligatory actions after Ramadan, and then the Nawafil. And that reminds me of the hadith number 38 in Arba'in Nawiyah, which I'm not going to mention. You can do your own research. And also, another piece of advice I would give for after Ramadan is consistency. The Prophet said, the most beloved actions to Allah those which are consistent, even if they are little. I'll finish here. Subhanakallah, alhamdulillah, la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.